I think it took almost a week to understand the capacity of this event. And but the first 2 days were really, we were like, the TV was always on. The TV was getting the news and realizing them with the people. I think somehow with the operation of everything, trying to contact people in need, tried to contact through the information, through the news, through to contact,
I mean, it was
to ask for help.
it was, I think, in the first day, at first, not just in the first day, but in the first day, it was a total shock. I mean, I think you're looking at the news and you say, I don't believe this is happening. Is this real? Is this horrible thing? Is this real reality now that these people are going through? And you know that you're sitting here in our house and 1 hour away by car, these things are happening. It's just 1 hour away. I mean, we were usually teaching there in Sderot, in one of those cities where they have a big dance center, the dance center in Sderot, which was one of the cities close to Gaza, which was actually overtaken. You know, it was conquered by Hamas for a few hours, which was really unbelievable. They killed all the police officers in the police station there, so there was no protection for the city at all until the military came. It took a while to get there. I think it was, and the most horrific feeling of that day and the several days afterwards, but especially in that day, was helplessness. You feel like you can do nothing. I mean, what can you do? And you don't know how it's going to evolve, because for several hours, these Hamas terrorists were occupying some cities and kibbutzes in the south. They really, I mean, Israelis were under occupation by Hamas terrorists, which were, after that, the picture came clear that they were shooting, burning alive, mutilating, and raping.
Yeah.
It was the stories coming out from there were really, it's really hard to bear. I think also the news were sending the information very slowly, even when they knew things. I mean, I think people like regular people cannot deal with all the horrific stories at one time.
And there were some very short movies, and like movies that Hamas brought up, like of
Kidnapping people,
kidnapping, killing, burning, and raping, and it was, and so we started receiving also from friends and in the like these short clips, and it was like really, so seeing in Sderot, in the city, like the car driving, and the door is open and the body is lying out of the car, like, and the car is just hitting the pillars on the road, and the persons are dying, are dead in the car. And then when we saw it, they said, no, okay, don't open like any like movies or clips, or it was
horrific. It's horrific, and you felt helpless, and you felt also afraid, because the rockets were flying over to all our cities. I mean, we in the same day, I think we went to take shelter. We don't have a shelter in our apartment, so we need to go to the staircase and go downstairs to be safe in case a rocket will fall on the head of the building.
Yeah, if a rocket will fall, we are dead, because this building is very old. It's from the 30s. It's from the...
Yeah, but we go out to take shelter anyway. But so we had to go there several times, because the city siren was heard several times during that day. And actually, the missiles towards Tel Aviv stopped only last week. I mean, it was still going on for 2.5 months. We are still, every now and then, there is a thing going on. There was absolutely no sign, no information. I mean, like
regular people. Yeah, there is a very big question, because there are soldiers, actually female soldiers, that are watching over Gaza all the time, and they said that there is a lot of practicing, but they didn't notice it, and apparently there was a very strong notification of that, and
they were noticing it. I think their commanders didn't take it seriously. I think that there is like, but it's also post-mortem, you know, it's like after this, you hear all this information that some commanders just did not take seriously the threat from Gaza, although all the signs were there. They were digging the tunnels, and the Israeli IDF knew about it.
I have to say that the
Everybody knew about
signs
it.
are there anyway because we are in a situation of occupation for many years, and this is a problem, and this is was and obviously,
But this was not an occupation of Gaza. It's not, Gaza is a different story.
yeah, of
It's a
course.
different story. We're not occupying Gaza.
Yeah.
Actually, Israel withdrew out of Gaza in 2005 or six. I don't remember when it was. Anyway, so Gaza was not occupied by Israel. So this is an important issue.
Yeah.
Um, the now in the immediately after this event, I think in the evening, the government declared war on Hamas. Like Israel is in a state of war. And in the next days, in that week that followed, it was a Saturday, October the 7th. So in the days afterwards, I think all the civil movements immediately went into action and bought from donations. They reached donations and they bought baby supplies and food and all the supply that you need, because all the people from the south had to evacuate their houses and go up to the center of Israel because now it's a war zone. So there is about 150,000, I think, refugees in Israel, refugees in Israel.
Still today.
From the south and from the north as well, because also in the north, Hezbollah was starting to make actions as well. So also we started to make a lot of food here in our house and send to both the soldiers and the refugees who are in all these kind of hotels and motels and Airbnbs, which the state is supposed to pay for.
The government was, it took them for like a few days, like to really just come up with solutions, and it was really, but people more than a few days until today they're not giving any.
The functioning of the government was really
terrible.
Very poor.
And then people really helped. People gave and made everything happen. There was like a very big organization of people making like donation centers of supplies of food, of cosmetics, and just sending it all over. And it was all private social people helping other people,
civilians. So we also decided to not just participate in donations of food and going to these centers to help out, but also to bring dance to places which are very much needed. So we went to places where the Israeli refugees are, and we danced with them and for them. And it was actually very nice. I think they needed it very much to move and to be distracted from these wars, from thoughts and from fears and from everything. So I think dance really was something that they really appreciated and missed, and they were really participating in it in very wholeheartedly. They needed it.
Most of the time it was a lot of kids. Like kids were just had nothing to do. There was no school, no kindergarten, no nothing. So, and parents were like just waiting for time to just go to the news or WhatsApp, or because they were all the time. So everything was very, very stressed, and people didn't know anything. I think until today because the situation is still going on. It's very, that helped connect between refugees and people who wanted to volunteer and give and help. And so there was a lot of these kind of activities going on. There were no performances, of course.
The theaters were closed, but I think a lot of companies and also independent dancers and choreographers immediately snapped into doing exactly what we did, like going to places where where children are, the teenagers are, and also grown-ups. I mean, we did tour apartment in the desert in a place where there were about 4,000 refugees. It was spectacular. I mean, it was full
It
house,
was
and
very hard. Like it was the first thing. It was like a month ago. It took us 2 months until we did a performance like regular.
before
And
that, we danced like it was not really a performance where you enter, a regular performance kind of structure. We just came and danced with them. We did some pieces, some short things from our pieces,
and it
and it
gives
was dancing with the public.
it gets a lot of meaning and content because of the situation, because the war goes on, people are dying every day, and uh, here and there, and it's like uh, so something that you are all the time with, and there are kidnapped there that are, well, dying, and it's dying and suffering and tortured and being abused, and it's like
This is the most. There are 100 and almost 140 people who are kidnapped and still held by Hamas. And it's really, this is one of the key issues, that it's different, that it's difficult for people to really go on with their lives, although the war is still going on. But you cannot escape the thought of what they're going through in these 3 months. There's 140 people who are abducted. Some of them are babies. One of them we had a demonstration, it was 2 days ago in Tel Aviv. One of the babies had a birthday of 1 year. And he's in Hamas now. He is now abducted in Hamas.
his
He's a
quarter of his life.
1 year old baby, redhead, and then the picture is smiling like he's 10 months old in the picture, or 9 months old. It's really it's really unbelievable to think of these things. We have a friend whose mother was also kidnapped, and she was one of the people who returned. And she was immediately hospitalized in critical conditions because the Hamas took very bad care of the people who are there, and there is no medical supply. There is no, if they need pills, they don't get those pills, So an older woman, she's 86, I think, and she's a mother of a friend of ours. So she was kidnapped, and she came back here, and she's still not out of danger, but she's getting better now. But there's still 140 people over there in Hamas underground, whatever, and it's impossible almost to not think, to go on with your daily life without thinking about it,
The
and
problem,
without being with fear about what is happening with them, how they're being treated. If they're being abused, women are probably being still raped. I mean, they're raping the women brutally. I mean, they did it on October 7th, and they did it with testimonies from people who came back. They're still sexually abusing women, probably also abusing sexually men. But this is it's really it's not human to even think about what is happening there. And
and the problem is the governments and the regimes that are, I think, and this has to do with also hope for something that can happen. It should start there. The problem that the war is going on, like bringing back the kidnapped, for this is the first thing to do, to heal something here, and this is and it seems that it's not been done, and it seems that it's not the main important thing in their minds. And
for the government, yeah, we have a very right-wing government, which is also a problem. I think it doesn't seem that they have really the majority of the public behind them in trusting that this government can really bring, let's say, heal Israel. And I think this is also one of the problems. But I think, and another problem that we are facing as left-wing thinkers, voters, liberals, is that the brutality of our enemy it was also a big surprise. I mean, we never thought they were saints. We know that there is a terrorist organization, but the brutality that they presented and displayed on October 7th is, I think they're aware that the Israelis are mostly Jews,
not all of them.
and we have a Holocaust in our history. And I think the leaders of Hamas wanted to produce and to arrange horrific stories that resemble this event in history. because it's not just, there is a difference between shooting, shooting people or shooting soldiers and burning people alive. There is a big difference. I mean, I think we all sense there is a difference, and they wanted these horrific stories. Otherwise, we
Cutting
cannot
organs, raping,
cutting organs while people are still alive. It's really unbelievable stories. So I think this is another thing that we're very disturbed about it. That you want to sympathize also with the other side, and we had sympathy. We still have sympathy for Gazans who are now evicted from their house as well, because of this war. But I think we are pretty, in my opinion, I think this is the Gazans problem now is mostly because of Hamas, not because of Israel.
Both.
I mean, any country, but any country has the right to. I mean, no country, not just in the West, in the East, anywhere, would tolerate such brutality towards simple civilians, towards kids, towards women, towards elderly people, towards just regular men. I mean, nobody can just say, "Oh, okay, we just do nothing." It's impossible. So, I mean, I think still having, like you see, we are still with temper about this, but we're going back to
it's temper, and it's like also a sense of helplessness. Yes, there is something, I don't know what. I mean, thinking about create or doing art, or I mean, is hard to accept. It's hard to think of. It's like we are managing a dance festival in June, and we really thought that we cannot propose, how do you say, we just call for proposals, but eventually we said we will do that because we are doing it, and just we thought there will be no, but people want to do it, so people need to go back to some normality somehow, although the situation is impossible. But I think if you go to the impossible, you become the impossible, and things cannot happen. And if you want to continue on living, to keep on living, you have to find the way, and to fight for. I think we fight for, like, having a different government here in order to solve this situation. But with that, we are.
I'm quite optimistic about saying solve the situation. I think the situation is not really very solvable at this point, or the solution would be a long-term one. I think it's not just, okay, here's the solution, let's do this. Unfortunately, I think there is like very weak governments in both places, very not really compromising governments in both, on both sides. So I'm a little bit more pessimistic. However, dance. Let's talk about dance in the future, or future creation in for us and for Israel in general. I think, in my feeling or sensibility, I think there is some. I really hope there's not going to be now a bombardment of October 7th productions kind of thing, of oh, look at how terrible things, because it's not I don't think art is supposed to do that. I mean, who would go to the theater to see, oh yeah, everything is shit. We know how everything is shit. We see it on the news every day. However, there are some things that you say. We saw some pieces, that we were being offered for this festival in June that we are the artistic managers of. And I think some issues and some, let's say, stage sensibility that cannot be presented in Israel now because it's so irrelevant. For instance, about how ecology is destroying humanity. This you cannot present here now in Israel. Who gives a shit now?
The difference with Corona for me, I mean, it's a little bit alike because this is a time of something with emergency in it. But here you feel more, for us, we feel more alone. And Corona was very international. Everybody were there together. And here, this is something, I mean,
It's very local. I mean, for most countries in the world, the story of October 7th and the war in Gaza is already old history. You know, it's 3 months ago and whatever. For with I have to say that we received a lot of emails and text
concern.
messages, many from our German friends, including Nina and Florian.
No, there is a difference between
And
friends and people that are more in personal contact in general, and people that you know more from colleagues or in general. But we had, at the beginning, we had both. Of course, that we are with friends, we are more in connection and communication more.
no,
And
but some of them are also programmers who know us from the past, you know, and didn't really communicate for a few years, you know, something until now, until this moment. And they ask us, are we okay? And how are we feeling? And their thoughts are with us, you know, and everything. So we were actually quite a lot of people from, you know, from the dance field in the world were communicating. Many of most of them were not. And I don't know whether it's they didn't think about
silence.
it or they have a different opinion about it, you know. Yeah, but we do feel like that many people from the dance field, you know, were concerned and asked us how you are and is everything okay? Can we do anything to help? And it was really a very nice feeling, I have to say. Um, yeah, we have two. We are in contact. We were in contact, short contact, with two Arab dancers that we know in Israel. Two ladies, actually. One is younger, one is older.
And the
And
situation there is, I mean, it's not an easy situation. Uh, the communication personally is very good, but you feel that there is some tension. I feel in general that there is a tension, and about the situation of what goes on. How do we create a world or a situation here for us that is possible? And the future is very much an enigma in that sense.
you see that with I think with these Arab dancers as Arabs in Israeli society, I think they're, let's say, the tension that they feel like with them personally and connecting to the outside to Israel, you know, is even more let's say it's very entangled and inexplicable, you know, in some way, because even if they have a lot of criticism about how they are treated, you know, let's say they sometimes they feel like an underdog, or they sometimes let's say justify Palestinian let's say means or, you know, declarations and stuff. None of them can really identify themselves with what has happened, because this is, I mean, I think most Arab Israelis cannot really root for this kind of actions. And we see it also. The Arab Israelis are, most of them are condemning what has happened.
But in general, it's a very complex situation. Thinking about the future for me, it's, I think we spoke about it, and it's like talking about the head of the system, the governments, the regimes. These are the people that can, not us, not the simple people, not the people, you know, the people in the head should have the vision and the willingness and the איך אומרים רצון?
Willingness.
Willingness to do some communication and talk about the day after, because this is the only chance and option I think I can see for this coexistence to happen.
I think the reaction of the let's say, of the left in the world, I think is another striking thing that we were really surprised and shocked by. And you see in campuses, universities in the United States, you see it also in places in Europe, the people are rooting for Hamas, not just for Palestinian rights, but for Hamas. And I cannot, and it's also a shocking thing, I mean, do you understand that you're rooting for people who are raping women, beheading children, brutally murdering, burning alive? How is it, and how is it possible to be a human being and still advocate for an organization that does these things? It's ISIS and worse, and so I think some of it probably is anti-Semitism in a new wardrobe, for sure. I think some of this is anti-Semitism for sure. But other parts is not anti-Semitism, but more it's like a trend. Free Palestine is a trend. When you see a man in a dress, we are also both gay and we are also LGBTQ, and we love our community. But when you see a man in a dress saying Palestine will be free from the river to the sea, I think my mind is blowing up. Do you understand that if you visit Gaza dressed like this, you're the first one that they will shoot?
Not sure they will throw you off the roof.
They throw people off the roof if they're gay. I mean, can you imagine? And did you ever, this man in a dress, I want to ask him, did you ever put a sign for Palestinian Authority to be more open towards queer people, to be more open towards women, to see women as equal human beings and not degrade women and LGBTQ people?
And a woman that being raped is being killed because of that.
Because of family honor. I mean, I want, of course, peace, and I want to coexist with the Palestinians, but I have a lot of issues with their culture and with how the rules of their society. So I think, but it's not my business; it's their business. But
it's our business in the terms that we live here, and we are gay, for example. And so, if there is coexistence and with the religious Orthodox, and from both sides, we are not accepted, and this is the problem of
we're not accepted, but still, no Orthodox person will shoot you now because you're gay.
You mean Jewish?
Yeah,
okay.
But so I think
I hope there was the murder in that it's complicated.
Yeah, but it's not an organization it's a different thing. With the one singular crazy man is possible, but I think so to see all this reaction of so-called allegedly intelligent young people, in universities of the United States, I don't know even how to find words for this, how people who are crazily, you can go, is in their perspective, you can go to jail if you're talking about the transgender and you're talking about him instead of asexuality, but the rape of women and the killing of children, they can not just ignore, but how do you call this? Race for organization who does that. You're saying, where's your morality? Where's your moral compass? I mean, I think this is like a gap, or let's say it's a crisis, I think, between us as left. We thought that we left is the same left everywhere. But I think now the left, at least in the United States and also in some places in Europe, is in total bankruptcy of like the feeling of superior values that the left thinks it's bringing, superior humanistic, liberal values. And you see now their bag is empty. Their wagon is empty. And it's another shock, actually, I have to say. I mean, this on one side, it's anti-Semitism in some places, and in some places, it's a different thing. Like I said, so it's another shock. And for the future, I would say I hope that this let's say this past year and all these horrible actions that are taking place, both on Israel land, with the killing of Israelis and the horrible actions, and also the bombardment of Gaza, which a lot of innocent civilians over there are suffering as well and being killed as well. I really hope that this whole terrible, let's say, dish will lead the region into most people into an understanding that nobody's going anywhere. The Jews are staying here, the Arabs are staying here. It's one land, you know. So what do you want for your children, your grandchildren, you know? Do you want the violence circle to go on forever? I mean, does it never stop? I hope that this suffering on both sides will make people, the majority of people, understand more that more violence to treat violence is not, you know, it's a never-ending story. So I really hope so. I think it's too optimistic, but I hope this is for the future.
For me, these times are really throwing me from extreme situations and feelings, and I'm really confused. But my wish to live is slowly. I'm trying to find how I'm coming back on track. So I hope that also this area will find the way to go back on track, and not the track to go to doom or to some kind of um, a situation without an exit, okay? But to find a way to, like Oren said, keep on living here together, side by side. And like two people are living together, you have to compromise. You have to find to accept, first of all, to accept. And yeah, this is wishful thinking.
I would say last thing that, you know, I think the hope for the future is that the Israel and Palestine will be led by the mainstream people and not by the extremists on both sides, which now they're dictating the reality here.
In both sides, on
Yeah.
both sides.